mean, I don't think Steph made an All-Pro before he got here, and he made multiple and some Pro Bowls in there too.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Founders Pod. I am your host, ARich Richens, and if you don't know me by now, ladies and gentlemen, get to know me, get to know us. This is Built in Buffalo, and that handsome little furry guy over there, no, ladies and gentlemen, that is not DM3. Let's wish DM3 well. He is sick. He has pneumonia right now, so let's all pray for DM3. Hope he can get well. Hope he can get back right and well and better, so he can continue to conduct and do a great job hosting this Founders Pod. But I got a very feasible replacement, and that is my buddy, my brother, my bro, the president of Built in Buffalo, Lance Nelson. How you doing, Lance?
Doing well. Appreciate you, brother. Glad to be on. My first, I think our first show together, so I'm excited to get this thing kicked.
Yeah, man, I'm excited as well, man. I'm excited as well. And, you know, I know you had the Buffalo Blitz on Tuesday, and I know that Stefon Diggs news happened on Wednesday. So I was eager and excited to get you on and get your thoughts on what happened during the week with the blockbuster trade with Stefon Diggs. So let's pay some bills and get this out of the way. If you're watching on Facebook, please give this a like, give this a share. If you're watching on Twitter or X, please give this a like, give this a repost. And last but not least, if you're watching on YouTube and haven't subscribed to the Built in Buffalo YouTube channel, please do so and give this a like as well on the Built in Buffalo YouTube channel. Now, we have 101 people, 102 people on the live broadcast to start. I only see 2 likes. So everybody take that time out, whether you're on Facebook or any of the social media platforms, and hit that like button. We get our algorithms up. It helps us get our audience a broader one. So please hit that like button. Lance, the Buffalo Bills traded our number 1 receiver, Stefon Diggs, to the Houston Texans for a 2025 second round pick. Not only did the Buffalo Bills send Stefon Diggs to the Texans, they sent draft picks as well. The 2024 6th round pick, a 2025 5th round pick. I was shocked. I was doing one of these when I saw the trade happen. I was doing this. I was like, what the hell is going on here with Stefon Diggs and the Buffalo Bills? So, Lance, when you saw this trade go down, when you saw the Buffalo Bills trade the number 1 receiver, what was your initial thoughts on the trade? Did you think the Buffalo Bills got fleeced? Did you think they got robbed? What was your initial thoughts?
Well, first of all, I was sitting in an office space, with 8 colleagues and whatever, and I said, "Hey, the Bills just traded Stefon Diggs. I'm going to need a minute here. I got to put down what the fuck I'm doing and deal with this,
Right.
real quick." And it's like, wow, they ate that dead money. They're eating that contract. Couldn't believe it. And then I immediately went to, what the are we doing at wide receiver now? Because I was just like, boy, that leaves a gaping hole in this offense and what we want to do with the talent we have. Those were my 2 initial things, man. I just was utter disbelief. Immediately went to, holy crap, dead money. And then outside of that, what kind of hole did we just create, and how does that impact this roster moving forward? And then the third thing, I guess, that came right in is like, no, they got it. They got a plan. I'll just have to figure it out. I didn't want to judge the trade. But trades, when I look at them, I like to let them play out, especially now it's a future pick. So you don't know exactly how to judge it, because whether we make that pick or we trade that pick for someone, that pick can be instrumental in the replacement of Stefon Diggs. So I don't necessarily have a feeling on who won the trade yet. Initially, it came out just him for a future second. I was like, damn, that's not a lot.
Right.
But now I think, knowing that he's a free agent after this year, I feel like that's a little bit of better compensation. But
Yeah, and isn't that interesting that the Houston Texans wiped out the final 3 years? It eased the blow if you was a Buffalo Bills fan, right? It's like, okay, the Buffalo Bills traded to the Houston Texans our best receiver for basically a 1-year rental, and we got a 2025 second round pick. That is the Minnesota's pick, by the way. And Minnesota right now, there's no more there's no more Kirk Cousins over there. They are a team that, in my opinion, may be regressing. So that second round pick may be a top 40, 45 pick. So that can be a substantial value when you compare it to Keenan Allen getting traded. Keenan Allen this year got traded to the Chicago Bears for a fourth round pick. That's substantial value to when you think about last year, I believe, was it last year or the year before, where Amari Cooper got traded for some nacho Doritos, right? Some Cool Ranch, right? I think that was a fifth round pick. So when you think about other star players, other star receivers that got traded, and the compensation is like, okay, the Buffalo Bills got a possible top 40 pick for this. I can feel a little bit better about this. But initially, when the Stefon Diggs trade happened, I was like, what the ass is this? Right? What is going on? The Buffalo Bills, to keep Stefon Diggs, it was going to cost $27.9 million. For Stefon Diggs not to play with the Buffalo Bills, it's costing the Bills $31 million, $3 more million for Stefon Diggs not to be on the team. And I think about that, and I'm like, wow. The Buffalo Bills do a great job keeping drama behind closed doors, because we knew that there was things going on based on tweets and based on posts. But because of this happening, it's like, okay, things must have been a lot worse than any of us anticipated. Can you kind of agree to that, Lance?
Yeah, for sure. Again, the disbelief on that, and not understanding, how that could happen is real. I mean, I 100% agree. There must have been ongoing conversations in that building that weren't going the right way, and that kind of thing, and stuff we're not going to know about. We've seen bits and pieces come out in different things that were kind of already out there, I guess, but not really highlighted, or had been kind of, dismissed, or made to say not a big deal, not a big deal. And well, now we know they were more of a deal than we all thought.
Now, personally, right before I get into my actions after the dust settled, personally, I'm going to miss Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs, 4 years with the Buffalo Bills, was nothing short of incredible what he was able to come do, and what he was able to do for the Buffalo Bills franchise, fan base, the organization. Josh Allen, I think he helped Josh Allen propel into that quarterback he is today. And I think Stefon Diggs is known throughout the league officially as a bona fide number one receiver. Leaving the Minnesota Vikings, coming to the Buffalo Bills, everybody thought Stefon Diggs was good, but they didn't have a bona fide number one receiver labeled to him. And now leaving the Buffalo Bills, I believe that is not even a question. 66 games with the Buffalo Bills, 445 receptions. That's about 115 receptions a season, 5,372 yards, 37 TDs, four-time Pro Bowler, and an All-Pro in 2020 for Stefon Diggs. Despite being only 6 foot and 185, 190 pounds. We always talk about physical guys and wanting big receivers and wanting guys that have the physicality to his game. But Stefon Diggs, he's not that big. He's not that fast. He's not that physical. But in 4 years, he has been a model of durability. He's missed one game in 4 years. And I think that is because of his high IQ, his smarts. He knows when to get down. He knows when to fight for yards. He knows when to go out of bounds. He's just a very high IQ football player. And I think that will be missed. And I don't think that can be overstated with Stefon Diggs. A couple of more things. My bad, Lance. My bad, Lance. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say nobody's going to outwork the guy. The effort is, someone was talking about, I put out a tweet says if Stefon Diggs thinks the Bills can't beat KC, he should look in the mirror as to one reason why. And even though I said that, and I said you can't be dropping the one, he did drop some balls,
Mm-hmm.
especially that one the big one deep. Can't
Mm-hmm.
take yourself out of the game when you're him, and he said, I'm him. And he is, look, Stefon Diggs was incredible as a Buffalo Bill. Don't get me wrong. I'm never going to discredit. He was everything for this organization that we could have hoped for when we made that trade. He
Mm-hmm.
gives 110% all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that rubs people the wrong way sometimes because he's sitting there giving it his all. And if he sees somebody lacking in his mind, he's going to say something about it. Not everyone likes that. Not everyone can deal with that sort of criticism, even though he holds himself to that high standard. You talked about, his durability, his IQ.
Mm-hmm.
The guy just outworks off season, regular season,
Mm-hmm.
playoffs.
He
He's just
works.
working. He's a dog. He really
Mm-hmm.
knows what it's like to be a professional football player. He
Mm-hmm.
takes care of his body on and off the field, like you mentioned, not the on the field stuff, but off the field. He posts his trainings. He's doing a lot of these things, stuff in sand to further, deepen the cutting ability and things with his legs. He's the consummate professional in that sense, in the preparation sense. But when it comes to actually, having maybe some antics or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
that's the area maybe he has some room for
Room to
improvement.
grow, room for growth. Absolutely, Lance. Absolutely. And just some quick statistics, some team statistics, some all-time rankings in team history for Stefon Diggs. Fourth in receiving yards behind Reed Modes and Lee Evans. Fourth in TDs. Fourth in receptions. First in yards per game. Um, Stefon Diggs' production he provided will not easily be replaced, right? Obviously, number one receiver. The Buffalo Bills are a worse team today without Stefon Diggs than they were last week. There is no question. I don't think anybody can argue that, right? But when we get off our initial reaction and we get off the soapbox and we got a moment to really digest the trade, right? You know what hit me? This phrase hit me, and I don't know. Maybe you could tell me if you could relate or not. The phrase is, as long as Josh Allen is the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, the window remains open. Last time I checked, that phrase was not, if Stefon Diggs, as long as he's part of the Buffalo Bills, the window remains open. That wasn't the phrase. Josh Allen is still here. He's still the franchise quarterback, and therefore that window remains open. So, Lance, after we got off our initial thoughts on the Stefon Diggs trade, what was your thoughts for the Buffalo Bills now that you got a moment to process the trade?
Yeah, exactly that a little bit. My twist on it was, okay, the youth movement is here. So, okay, now we really are getting young here. Because it's really just a few veteran starters with Von Miller. Now
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen is
Mm-hmm.
really more of the veteran, and things like that. So this roster just got even younger and even more inexperienced with the loss of Stefon Diggs. So embrace the youth movement. Okay, it's here. We're gonna find new leaders. We got guys, Teron Johnson being extended, so guys like him on defense that are gonna step in into leadership roles. Guys like Dawson Knox on offense and Connor McGovern along the offensive line are gonna step up and be leaders. Deion Dawkins is gonna be even more important to the leadership of this team.
Mm-hmm.
And then what kind of veteran can they bring in really to still have that presence in the wide receiver room
Now,
specifically?
Now, do you think that is necessary? Do you think that veteran presence is necessary? Adding let's put a name out there, Tyler Boyd. Do you think that presence is necessary? Or do you think the Buffalo Bills may just say, you know what? We're going to go ahead. We have a veteran quarterback now, right? It's not like before when Josh Allen came in. When a young quarterback comes in, young rookie quarterback, lacks that experience, you want that alpha number one receiver. Not saying you don't want it now, but you especially want that to to speed the progression of your young quarterback. Now that you have a veteran quarterback and now he's viewed as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe it's time to, you want quality at the receiver position, but maybe it's time to go through those growing pains with your quality receivers because you have developed a franchise quarterback. Your thoughts?
I think Curtis Samuel's enough of that if they don't do anything. Brandon Beane's got to have a plan. The problem is the plan is hinging upon so many ifs and buts because you have to have a team to work with if they want to trade for something, or you have to have that guy that you want fall to you in the draft if you want to draft somebody. So it all requires work from someone else that isn't here in the building. So you're going to need maybe not luck, but you're going to need those dominoes to fall the way that you plan them to fall for your whole, scheme to work here. You're going to need someone to come in. If you have someone that you want to pay as a veteran receiver to come in and play here off the street, free agent, they have to agree to that deal. So it's all about who can you persuade to really execute your plan to move forward. And it's not a certainty. So their plan's going to have to be dynamic. They're going to have multiple iterations of it, because it's, if we can do this, then we'll go this route. And if we can't do that, we got to do this. And if that doesn't happen, we have to go another route. So it's a very layered plan now of ifs and buts, then do this. And that's the only minor concern I have, because it's like, all right, if your ifs run out, what are we doing? And that kind of thing. But I'm very comfortable right now having Curtis Samuel be that veteran that we have, and then leaning on the growth of a guy like Shakir. I know not a lot of people are high on Justin Shorter either, and I'm not saying he's going to be great, but I'm just saying there's an optimism, there's a potential there to see what he could grow into. Maybe nothing, maybe it doesn't come to fruition. There's just a lot of unknowns now, and that's I think that's the concern for a lot of fans out there is uncertainty,
unknowns
for sure.
Definitely.
But he's thought about him. He's thought through, and I think he said as much in his presser, where he's got to work through the processes. He's got to work through the free agency. He's got to work through the draft and see what can happen. And like I said, he's got layers of plans on, what can I get done? Can I really get this guy? And this is our top guy. Can I get that top target? If that plan falls through, okay, who's my next one, and on to the next one, and on to the next one. If there's anybody I trust that can make those moves happen that need to happen to execute that plan, it's Brandon Beane. I think that he's just excellent at doing those things.
And I have to agree with that assessment 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, ARich, Hakeem Richens, Lance Nelson, the Founders Pod. I appreciate all the talk within the comments. Keep the comments and keep the discussion coming. This is why we have the Founders Pod, so you can have intellectual discussions amongst yourself. And if you have to say something that you want me to get up on the screen, super chats do get priority. If you have a super chat out there, I will put your comment up. But moving back to the Stefon Diggs situation, and it kind of leaves a gaping hole for the Buffalo Bills at the wide receiver position, right? And it's like, okay, what are we going to do from here is a question that is going to have to be answered quickly. But let's go ahead, deep dive a little further and discuss why Stefon Diggs got traded in the first place. What are the reasons that Stefon Diggs possibly got traded from the Buffalo Bills? And I want to go ahead and I'll start this off, and then I'll get your rebuttal, and then I want to get your reason. My first reason why the Buffalo Bills possibly traded Stefon Diggs is the antics, right? The commitment between player and organization has ran its course. We always had to speculate, worry about, and decode what the hell Stefon Diggs was trying to say on social media. Year in and year out, us as fans had to be like, well, what, Stefon Diggs, what do you mean? Do you want to be here? Do you not want to be here? What's going on with this tweet? What's going on with this post? And it was it was happening again this year, and it was like it got to the point where us fans was like, that's just Diggs being Diggs, right? And I think honestly, the Buffalo Bills got tired of those type of antics, the outbursts on the sidelines in the playoff loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. I had the picture up here earlier, and I'll go ahead and post it again. The antics, looking at Josh Allen, like, why? What's going on here? Why are we losing and not being able to get over the hump? And even though I love the passion behind Stefon Diggs, it seems as if when the Buffalo Bills was to lose, he would take himself out the equation, right? He's not a part of the team, because you win as a team, you lose as a team. You ride together or you die together. But when the Buffalo Bills lose, it seems as if that Stefon Diggs was to separate himself and would start to do one of these point fingers. And he's the one that would get mad and get upset and ultimately probably want to leave, even though you are a part of the team as well. You lost along with the team. Yep. You can't separate yourself from the team and start pointing fingers. So I felt that Stefon Diggs did that some, and it probably grew uncomfortable with players. During the Pro Bowl festivities just this year, right? Stefon Diggs was asked if he felt optimistic about his future with the Buffalo Bills. And Stefon Diggs replied, I can't tell you what the future holds, but I'm going to still be me. The last time I checked, Stefon Diggs was on the year one this year of a 4-year, $96 million contract. How you not know what the future holds if you're under contract for 4 years? So that let me know, that should have let us know the writing was on the wall. Stefon Diggs did not want to be here. Because if he wanted to be here, he would have vouched for the team he was playing for, and he's never done so. Stefon Diggs didn't want to be here. His antics and on the field and off the field has ran its course, and I believe that is one of the reasons the Bills traded Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, I never really got into the social media stuff. I never really played into that hype. I'm sure it was annoying. I'm sure, and nobody understood it and all that thing. But the things that you explained about his antics on the field, showing up Josh Allen, that doesn't make any sense to do that. And then the things he said, like you mentioned at the Pro Bowl festivities, those things definitely are eye-opening. And those are the things when you start seeing him take himself off the field, as I alluded to earlier, when you start seeing him directly impact the team. And if someone wants to say he's hurt, he wasn't on the injury report as being hurt.
Right.
If he couldn't perform up to his standard, then don't play the game.
Right.
Because that's what you're talking about right now. Either you can play and you're going to play, or you can't and you don't. And that's, for me, I don't understand that whole conversation about, he's hurt, this, that. No, I mean, if he was hurt, wouldn't they have to report it? Otherwise, you're looking at some other violations. And if he was, and if he's taking himself out because he's hurt, then if you can't play, then don't play.
The last time I checked, maybe I'm old school, but I was told if you're playing, you're healthy.
Yep.
And like I alluded to earlier, Stefon Diggs missed 1 game in 4 years.
Yeah.
So I know he probably was battling some things, but hey, so was Josh Allen. He'd been battling things with his shoulder for years, right? So again, if you're playing, you're healthy. So one reason Stefon Diggs might have got traded was the antics. Lance, give me another reason on possibly why Stefon Diggs was traded from the Buffalo Bills.
I mentioned kind of the youth movement earlier, right? And my initial, or my afterthought after I had some time to process was, okay, youth movement. And so really the money it opens up, like nearly $20 million in 2025 and 2026 and beyond, that money that it opens up for our cap is going to be huge. And so, yeah, we take the big hit this year, and it will, render the Bills limited in some capacities due to that dead cap money. But after that, it frees up cash, which can be used in other ways, as was explained by many different folks. They actually have more cash this year where they can use that They can't take on, a ton more cap hit, but they can use the cash to spend in different ways, and that'll help them operate as a team and organization. So overall, the financials, the way you kind of take your lump now and move on, although that's a surprising decision to me, obviously that is, one of the main reasons.
Yeah, yeah, and I like it. I like what you said. Financial flexibility, right? The Buffalo Bills do have that $31 million dead cap in 2024. And when you look at it and when you initially look at it, you're like, oh shit, we are in trouble, right? But now when you take a moment to process, it hits you. It's like, hold on, the free agency's over, right? We just have the draft left, really and truly, right? How much can that dead cap really affect you? Now, it's going to affect you some. You can't do certain things, but after this year, it opens up so much doors for the Buffalo Bills. The Bills automatically free up in 2025. They only have that limitations to the cap with Stefon Diggs trade this year. Everything's opened up after this year. The Buffalo Bills opened up $27.3 million in cap space for 2025. And I think that is significant for the Buffalo Bills because we've watched Brandon Beane this year and last couple of years, right, go bargain shopping. And I think that Brandon Beane has done a whale of a job bargain shopping. But I'm at the point now is I'm ready for Brandon Beane to go in the Gucci store. I'm ready for Brandon Beane to go in the Louis store, the Chanel store, the expensive malls and shit. It's time to get back there. And that's what
Versace.
yes, sir. And that's what I'm excited to get to next season for Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills. And I would like to see his aggression attacking free agency, attacking deals, attacking trades when he has the money he does have or is about to open up in the future. So I love the financial flexibility we have behind moving Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to ask you before I get into another reason why the Buffalo Bills possibly traded Stefon Diggs. Side question, and I want to get everybody in the comments thoughts as well. Right, Stefon Diggs is gone. There's no number one receiver. We've been talking about getting a future number one receiver and making him a number two for now until Stefon Diggs leave so he can be that one, right? We've been talking about getting that receiver even with Stefon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
And now Stefon Diggs is gone. So now that the Buffalo Bills need two starting outside wide receivers, is it possible that the Buffalo Bills could be entertaining Khil Shakir as an outside receiver this year, even though we've seen the success in the slot, even though there's phrases like, hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Mm-hmm. But it looks as if it could be possible Khil Shakir can move to one of those outside spots. What's your thoughts on that possibility?
Yeah, I think that's 100% going to have to be one of the possibilities. I'm just trying to bring up some numbers here on that, because he was heavily, playing in the slot. But as the season grew on, he started seeing more and more games with double-digit snaps out wide. So finished the year every game after week 15 with more than 10 snaps out wide.
Nice.
In each game. Only 4 games previous at double digits. So to start the season, the first 7 weeks, he didn't see more than 7 snaps out wide. Okay. And then as he grew and was on the field more and more, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about in Joe Brady's offense too. One of the things I like about the position flexibility, the matchups that he creates and things. But I absolutely think it was after week 11, which is when Joe Brady took over. Khil Shakir only had 1 game in which he didn't get double-digit snaps out wide, and that was 9 in week 14. And if I'm not mistaken, 14 is the Cowboys game when they just didn't have that many passing plays. So.
That Cowboys game. The game plan was constructed to run the ball because
Oh,
the
no, that was
Dallas
Chiefs game in a
Cowboys,
row.
I believe, was light in the box, right? So
That,
because they played that light box, James Cook went off against Dallas, and I don't think
no,
Khil
even that
Shakir was in
that
the
was
stats.
Chiefs game week 14. So for whatever
Okay.
reason, the 14 he only had 9, but either way, I mean 9 is very close to 10. Obviously, everyone knows
Mm-hmm.
math here. So
Mm-hmm.
just he approached 10 or more snaps on the outside
Mm-hmm.
every game after Joe Brady took over, and so I think that gives you a look into the way they're going to try to use him. He absolutely has a slot dominant role this past season because we didn't have that much, we didn't have the other options. Hardy just wasn't doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really, we needed him there in that role. And, but, he did spell Gabe Davis and he did get the work towards and I noticed that in many games where I say, okay, they're starting to, it seemed like, just from watching the game, okay, he split out wide
Mm-hmm.
again. This is more and more happening. And, the numbers don't lie there, as I suggested, with his snap count out wide. I think he did a very good job, in those reps, and we'll see if that increases. I think he still probably hits somewhere in the 50-50. Maybe he goes, if he at most he's going to go probably 60-40. If
Mm-hmm.
at most he would go 60% outside. I don't think he's going to go any more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Right now he's 75% slot. So he's not going to go completely opposite, I don't think, but he has the potential to kind of go probably like 60-40 type split, a wide versus slot, where it's completely the other way at this point in his career, given last year, given the roster of last year, they
Mm-hmm.
had people. I know, and like I said, people are not probably super happy about the thought of a Mac Hollins actually being a bigger part of this team than what when we signed him and Diggs was still here. Everyone's like, okay,
Yes, sir.
fringe roster spot, blah blah. But I mean, man, you don't know if they're just gonna say, well, for a year, let's see how you do in that Gabe Davis role. Because let's
Mm-hmm.
be honest, I mean, if you're talking about games where Gabe Davis gets almost no targets anyway, or has
Mm-hmm.
no receptions,
Mm-hmm.
then can a Matt Collins be serviceable in
Mm-hmm.
an outside blocking role where Gabe Davis played? I think so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you look, I like it.
Or can Justin Shorter do that? Or I don't know, but I'm
I
just
like it.
that's the kind of thing I go to. But I absolutely, to answer the question long-windedly, Shakir is
Mm-hmm.
going to play more. He's going to have to start playing a little bit more outside probably this year, unless they just drop a bomb and get an absolute stud on the outside.
And I think it's definitely going to matter on what the Buffalo Bills do on with the draft with the receivers, what type of players they get to their building their roster would determine on position spots and flexibility. I think I always thought that Khil Shakir obviously did better in the slot last year. He obviously produced in the slot, but when I think about the Joe Brady offense and how it's constructed and how he wants the defenders to cover every blade of grass, and he wants to stretch the field horizontally. And he has this short makeup in the passing game, short and intermediate passing game, where he likes to get guys the ball in space, and whether they can create. I'm not sure if Khil Shakir won't have success on the outside based on Joe Brady's constructive play calling, right?
Mhm.
Based on how he calls games and based on how he calls plays. Khil Shakir may just be just as impactful on the outside as he was in the slot, because you could still get screens on the outside. You can still run the gadget plays reverses. You could still run them curls, those dig routes on the outside. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see. But that was the side note. Let's go back. Let's revert back and get into another reason, possibly a final reason on why Stefon Diggs was traded from the Buffalo Bills. And I think it was this reason is key. If I can go ahead and find it here. The Bills found success despite Diggs' struggles, right? The Buffalo Bills was in 10th place at one point early when Joe Brady took over, right, for that stretch run. Joe Brady took over offensive play calling duties. They ended up finishing the regular season winning 6 out the last 7 games, ultimately winning their 4th straight AFC East title and getting the second seed in the playoffs, 7-2 in 9 games, including the playoffs over that span. In those 9 games, Stefon Diggs had about 44 receptions, 388 yards, and 1 touchdown. that equates to about 43 yards per game. So we wasn't getting much productivity from our number 1 receiver in Stefon Diggs, but we were still able to win games and win a lot of games convincingly. We was able to win a lot of games that was close in the balance, right? So the Buffalo Bills still found ways to win despite Stefon Diggs' struggles. And I alluded to his stats when you take out, okay, Stefon Diggs struggled in this offense. What about some other players, right? In them same 9 games, Khil Shakir had 30 receptions, 438 yards, 3 touchdowns. More yards, more touchdowns, bigger impact. In those same 9 games, Dalton Kincaid had 36 receptions, 387 yards, 1 touchdown. I think Dalton Kincaid, his snap count and his upticks in terms of targets, because Stefon Diggs is no longer on the team, I think those are going to go up in the 2024 season. So I look at Khil Shakir. I look at Dalton Kincaid finding success. I look at James Cook having success as a runner and as a pass catcher. And I say to myself, the Buffalo Bills have players that can play in this offense and play in this offense at a high level. And now all the Buffalo Bills have to do is find more players to fit that scheme. And I'm not sure if we'll never know if Diggs can ultimately fit that scheme or not. But based on the 9 games he played with Joe Brady, he did not fit that scheme, and the Buffalo Bills still found a way to find success despite being out the playoff picture when he started. And because of all those things, they was able to triumph, and I believe it made the departure to Diggs within the organization a softer blow to handle. So the Bills found success despite Stefon Diggs' struggles.
For sure. His best game was against Philadelphia, which we lost. And then his second best game was against Miami, which obviously clinched the division for us. So we are grateful for that. He has the ability to be impactful, in my opinion, in any situation. And you saw even that Joe Brady put him in the backfield and tried different ways to get him involved and get him rolling in each and every one of those games. And really, it just seemed like, he just couldn't stay on the field for whatever reason throughout the later games in the season. Just seemed like the snap share was going down a little bit. And then he just, he had, 2 drops against Kansas City. Both times we played him. And, so for whatever reason, in those bigger moments, he seemed to get a little bit tighter, as well, and not perform as well as we're used to seeing Stefon Diggs perform. Like I said, highly important, especially to the Bills offense, the way he was with the way this roster was constructed. He was obviously the main target that took all the attention away from everyone else. And that's the interesting part moving forward is, okay, we don't have that stud, that superstar to take the focus away from a defense, and kind of where do we go from there. But I think the Bills showed, as you mentioned, that there are other pieces that can step up and contribute in those ways. I like the way Khil Shakir showed more sure-handedness and things like that throughout the late games in the season. Dalton Kincaid, although he started dealing with he started getting beaten down as a rookie. You can tell that he still needs to improve his body composition and be able to be more durable. But he was just getting hit hard, and same with Shakir at the end there. He ended up going out in the Kansas City game as well. So these guys are young in Shakir and Kincaid, and they're going to take steps, and they already were pretty darn solid, especially towards the end of last year. So taking that next step forward with those 2 pieces, and specifically, I think that's that's an easy case to look at, is that this team can and will have success regardless of if Stefon Diggs is on the field for them, and which he's not going to be any longer.
You know what? I like it, and that's the hope. The hope is that this is not just 9 games. It was just these 9 games, right? We hope that this is something that is compounding success with Joe Brady and winning games, and obviously winning more games than you lose, right? But before we get into Joe Brady, I want to ask you. I spoke about James Cook a little bit when Joe Brady took over the offensive play calling duties. James Cook became a different player. James Cook became a more important player. James Cook became a vital piece to the Buffalo Bills offensive puzzle. 9 games with Brady, 155 attempts, 678 yards, 1 TD, 28 receptions, 249 yards, and 3 TDs. Now, I seen the success.
And dropped a couple.
There we go, right there. We seen the success from James Cook. We see that he was a Pro Bowler for the running back position for the Buffalo Bills this year, but he did have drops and he did have some inconsistencies to his game. And when I look at Joe Brady's offense, I'm thinking that the running back position is more important than ever for the Buffalo Bills organization since Sean McDermott took over for the Buffalo Bills, because of who we have as an offensive play caller. He leans to the running backs often, running the ball and passing the ball. How much do you trust James Cook?
He had 3 games in which he didn't drop a ball after Joe Brady took over. One, he had 0 targets against the Chargers. So so 2 out of the games he was targeted after Joe Brady took over, he had 2 games, caught 5 of 5 against Kansas City.
Nice.
But hey, that's against Kansas City. That's a big moment right there. He's stepping up. He can do it, right? And then the second one was against Pittsburgh, had 4 targets and 4 catches. Not a huge yard per reception average, so he didn't exactly probably have to take. Yeah, it was 4 catches for 5 yards, so he was probably getting those little dinks and things. But the thing about Cook is the routes that they ran with him were something that when he was drafted, it was like, oh man, he's going to run these wheel routes and he's going to run these routes out of the backfield that we really haven't seen in Buffalo a lot. We haven't really seen our running back be able to do a lot of things in the passing game in recent years. And his availability or his ability down the field and things like that is special. And that's part of what, made him such a great NFL prospect. And we're seeing some of it come to fruition. Again, he dropped a couple touchdowns. But he also caught a couple that, we're like, oh man, is he going to catch that too? So, I mean, he definitely, like you mentioned, there is some inconsistency with him, but I think, that's the human element of sports. And I think that he will and can be a reliable threat, especially in the passing game. And there's no doubt we know he can handle the rock in the running game. And I believe he will kind of shore up some of those, fumble issues as well. He had a few of those. So, but overall, his game fits really well. And you saw Stefon Diggs kind of try to get into that role in some instances, getting into that backfield role. And without him there, you now slot in Curtis Samuel into some of those plays who fits 100%. We'll kind of get into those discussions about personnel and the way they fit into this offense in a little bit. I'll talk more about that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 100% agree. I like James Cook. I like his ability. I like, despite his size, I was worried when he got drafted for the Buffalo Bills in the second round. I was worried about his durability. I was worried about his physicality, him being able to successfully run between the tackles. And I believe he proved that he can indeed do those things. He can be explosive. He can run on the outside and bend that corner. He can run between the center and the guard and pick up some tough yards as well. He can run routes and catch the football out the backfield and be a mismatch nightmare against linebackers and safeties or whoever the type of defender the defense want to put on him. He can do a multitude of things. Like you said, though, it's the inconsistency. We need James Cook for us to take another step. We need James Cook to be a consistent player. He catch the ball consistently every game. Like Khil Shakir, one thing about him, and I think early on, the reason why he wasn't able to get on the football field as much is because of his inconsistencies, because he was to drop the pass, because he was to drop the ball in practice. And I think he came out this year with a completely different focus, a completely different mental focus. And Khil Shakir and Josh Allen has some of the best success rates probably in history last season. And that's because Khil Shakir took that step up. He took that mental focus up a notch, and now he catches everything in sight. It's to the point now you forgot that Khil Shakir had drops and had struggles early on because of how reliable and how trustworthy and how consistent he's been this year. And of course, we hope he can continue to do that, but I hope James Cook can take a chapter out the Khil Shakir notebook and be consistent throughout the course of the season this year as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think he will too. And I have full faith in this regime's plan on how they're going to go forward. It's just like I mentioned before, there's uncertainty because you now need other things to happen for you. You don't have direct control over how your roster build goes from here. It's taking what scenarios you're dealt and making the best of them.
100% agree. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't tuned in, welcome. If you're now tuning in, welcome to the Founders Pod. I am your host, ARich Hakeem Richens. I have my bro, Lance Nelson, president of Built in Buffalo, here with me discussing Stefon Diggs, the Bills offense, and a multitude of topics. I have 470 people looking at this live. We appreciate everyone watching tonight. I only have 19 likes. So the ratio, the math ain't mathing right now. So hit that like button. Let's definitely get these likes up and definitely share this broadcast. Moving on. Stefon Diggs is gone. Gabe Davis is gone. 2 starting wide receiver positions are open for the Buffalo Bills. And now I have to transition over to the man calling the plays, right? And that man is Joe Brady. Joe Brady took over for the Buffalo Bills midway through the season. And in my opinion, he's did an incredible job. Obviously, going from 10th place to winning the 4th straight AFC East Conference title, putting up the points that he was able to put up. Josh Allen looking like his old self. I believe he said it during the first game, during the Jets game. I believe he had a big play, and he said, "I feel like I'm freaking back." Right? So Joe Brady, first year, I think it was a successful one for the most part, especially from where he started. He didn't start beginning of the season, beginning of OTAs, where he can implement his scheme, his ideologies. He was able to take someone else's and Ken Dorsey and be successful with that. So, Lance, I want to ask you, let's get it up here, right? Joe Brady is now going into his first full season as the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator. I want you to give me your brief synopsis on what you saw last year from the Joe Brady office. What did you like? What did you see? Tell us, give us a breakdown of what you saw within the Joe Brady offense.
Yeah, from a personnel usage standpoint, I really loved, obviously, the running back usage that he kind of amplified after taking over. You saw the running back usage really take an uptick. And from that standpoint, that's fun to see because James Cook came in with this great ability to be a dynamic playmaker in the passing game. and it wasn't necessarily being unlocked under Ken Dorsey, I don't think.
Mhm.
And now the short middle, the 10-yard and under center of the field attack kind of blew up, especially under Brady. They really focused on where they could take advantage of the defense more, and they just went to it over and over again. And that's a good thing at times when it works and can be also predictable. But we'll get to that part of it after. And then the different staying with personnel usage, the different areas where he will utilize a tight end or a wide receiver. We
Mhm.
mentioned Diggs lining up in the backfield.
Mhm.
We have Curtis Samuel now who can do some of those things.
Mhm.
He had Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox can split out wide as well,
Mhm.
and they did that plenty of times. We talked about Shakir getting snaps out wide and in the slot, so they move these guys around to
Mhm.
get their matchups. One of the things that I noticed, a lot of games they were heavy to one side of the field or the other and not necessarily fully balanced across the entire field. So
Mhm.
some of they chose a side of the field based upon personnel, or maybe whether the team had, a side of the field type cornerback. If their corners weren't maybe following the receivers and whatnot, it seemed like they kind of identified that and kept and kind of emphasized it. So you could
Mhm.
see
I like
in
it.
the way that the plays in the breakdown of the play direction and things like that, they emphasized where those matchups were
Mhm.
and made sure that it was known that that was where they were attacking. So it was pretty evident just in even some overall numbers perspective, which don't always tell the whole story, but you could see it out there. And then from the play designs, uh, they were able to understand how to get these guys in positions to get open.
Mm.
And separation is going to be key in this offense, being able to separate enough to give Josh Allen that throwing lane. Luckily, he doesn't need a big one. He can fit it in there where he needs to. And then that comes in where guys are going to have to make their plays and really be able to be shorthanded, like you talked about.
Mhm.
But the Brady offense is multiple attacks. You're
Mhm.
going to see multiple personnel packages, and then you're going to see your play design attack one or two areas over and over and over again, um, because they've identified that as their mismatch.
Now, the Buffalo Bills did some shuffling along the offensive line. Mitch Morse is no longer there. They talk about moving Connor McGovern to center. David Edwards may slide into guard. I noticed, and I'm gonna speak about it as well. We spoke about that the rushing attack from the Buffalo Bills, especially with the Joe Brady offense. Do you have any concerns that the offensive line probably isn't as physical as they were last year? Because I think last year they was able to really show some physicality, a lot more physicality that I was accustomed to seeing from the Buffalo Bills run attack from years past. And how do you feel? Two-part question, I know. And how do you feel about the Leal Collins signing? Do you think he is going to be a swing tackle and backup Spencer Brown, or do you think they're going to implement him as a guard?
I don't think that I'm going to start with the last part of the question. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they have that nailed down. I think he's an insurance policy, and I think that they're going to let him compete for that. So if he competes and earns a starting left guard spot,
Mm-hmm.
and they're better off for it. And
Mm-hmm.
if he comes in and the best he can do is solidify a swing tackle spot,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna roll with that too because they do
Mm-hmm.
have Will Clapp and they do have some guys here. I really like this offensive line unit, the way they kind of retooled it a little bit. I think Connor McGovern
Okay.
do a great job. I think he can have some tenacity as well. I think he can move well.
He
Uh,
can. Very athletic.
and so I think they're going to let that
Play out.
competition breed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna rule out taking another offensive lineman in the draft either to come in
Not at
and
all.
compete for another one of those roles. Maybe even two offensive linemen in this draft. If they are picking 11 times, we may see that. If they start packaging some things and move around, then we may not see the numbers at uh, that we're talking about here, because obviously the number of picks is going to go down. So from an offensive line standpoint, I really think that they've done a good job of retooling that. They have probably 3 or 4 kind of guys that are like, hey, you're at worst an insurance policy, great depth piece, and then at best you come in and you take over the one hole at left guard, which not necessarily a hole, because I think we have guys that can play there. It's just a matter of like, who is that going to be? So, the one uncertainty right now on the offensive line is left guard, and they've got 3 or 4 guys that can come in and try to see what happens there and see who can win that job.
Yeah, I think that, you hit a lot of solid points right on the head. Leal Collins, Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, I'm thinking they're going to put the best 5 offensive linemen on the field. And if Leal Collins is one of those 5, then they're going to find a place for him.
Aaron Kromer is one of the best offensive line coaches in
Yes.
the league, and we have a
Yes.
great staff there. So there's no doubt in my mind with scheme and coaching that this is going to be a pretty successful unit this year. I don't think we're going to get the injury success or the injury luck that they had last year. So tooling the line the way they have now really is like, okay, like we're not going to be devastated by any one position going down for any length of time. I think we do have really solid depth pieces now. And that was my one concern at the beginning of this, when they did let Mitch Morse go and they did let Ryan Bates go. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here as a depth of offensive line? Because you've really diminished your unit there now, and they've made up for that and more than surprised me with the signing of Clapp and Collins and David Edwards coming back. So
Exactly. At worst, another thought that I got when I seen the signing is it could be another, Taylor Rapp situation at tackle. Who knows what may happen with Spencer Brown? He's going into his contract year. What if he impresses and has a stellar season? Do the Buffalo Bills want to kick the tires and pay 15 or 16 or 17 million dollars to Spencer Brown? So it could be a situation where he's on the team this year, just like Taylor Rapp. He's going to get used to the system, understand the Buffalo way, understand how Aaron Kromer and the offensive staff likes to work, and he might get entrusted to that right tackle spot in 2025, dependent on what happens with Spencer Brown. But I like the offensive line talk. Good feedback, good discussion there. But getting back to the Joe Brady offense, right? Obviously, the offensive line is an integral part of the offense. Overall, I thought that Joe Brady did well, especially in the position he came in. I thought he did a very good job. He will run the ball. He has an identity in the run game, which I like to see. I also like that his plays, it kinds of tells a story. His plays make sense. When I looked at Ken Dorsey, it was like, okay, what was the play here, right? What are we trying to do here?
Yep.
What is the route these receivers are trying to run here? Why are these receivers running these routes in close proximities of each other? It was a lot of questions I had with Ken Dorsey's play calling that I don't have with Joe Brady. Everything makes sense. He uses plays to set up other plays. And that is something that I enjoyed watching with Joe Brady's offense. Obviously, I spoke about it a little bit, alluded to it a little bit. The running back position, in my opinion, is as important as ever with the Buffalo Bills now that Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator. He likes to run between tackles. He likes to run those toss plays. He likes to utilize those check downs and get the ball to the running back, get those dump offs, utilize the flat when he's running them shallow and dig routes. He wants to have the running back leak out to the flat so the linebacker can cover and leave some space and some openings in some zone coverages. So I think the running back position is an important part for the offense, and I think Joe Brady does a excellent job getting his running backs involved. I like the short passing attack and the idea Joe Brady has behind it. Get the ball out in space to your playmakers, cover every field of grass, and take some pressure and responsibility off the quarterback, which is Josh Allen. And I think that is something for years, us as fans and media pundits and commentators and announcers would all say. Josh Allen has to be Superman. The Buffalo Bills has to take pressure off Josh Allen. And I believe the way Joe Brady offense is constructed, it is designed to do exactly that, take pressure off the quarterback.
For sure. He's, like I mentioned, really good at pinpointing the areas where they can be successful on matchups and things like that, where he has the opportunity for those quick passes and being able to get the ball out of Josh Allen's hands and taking that pressure off him, like you mentioned. I think we saw a lot of success or a lot of volume in the 10 yards or less and the line of scrimmage plays. And when you look at the breakdown of where the passes went after he took over, the under 10 yards and then the behind the line of scrimmage numbers, they were game dependent with Ken Dorsey. He certainly had some things where he loaded up on some short passes and things like that based upon scheme, but you can see it was a little bit more deliberate with Joe Brady. Like I say, you weren't mistaken upon where he thought his matchup was for that game. If you go back and you look at where they ran the bulk of their plays and where they emphasized it, you could tell that they had identified these areas before the game, and that as long as they were working, which more often than not they did, because they went 6-2 with him. So they did a pretty good job of understanding that their personnel was able to succeed and where they were able to succeed. So that's definitely one of the bright spots for Joe Brady. And I guess it's a good segue to go into, if you're ready, a little bit of the concern.
I like it. Go ahead. Take it over.
And so the way he identifies things, it makes him a little bit predictable in my mind. You had a lot of areas where he just handed the ball off on second down, and it's like, brother, just pull it and run a play action pass here. You don't need there were areas where we scratched our heads. Man, why did you hand the ball off again here? We needed to kind of run or why didn't you hand the ball? When they tried to get a little cute in some areas where they tried their swing passes or something, and for whatever reason, Diggs couldn't catch a swing pass out of the backfield for a couple of different games. But
I like it.
My one concern with that is that his great ability to identify a matchup, but does he go to the well too often? Does he become then too predictable?
That's it.
And I'll get your thoughts on that. And then I have one other question about your thoughts on, does this leave the door open for McDermott to have more of an influence on how this offense is run moving forward? You saw a lot of games where we did become a little bit more run heavy. We talk about balance. Are we going too far that way, given our personnel, where we thought we could maybe throw the ball a little bit more? And so predictability, and then the McDermott influence on balance and being maybe a little bit too run heavy at times. What are your thoughts on those?
So we'll talk about McDermott. I believe part of Joe Brady's struggles in Carolina with Matt Rule was the differences in ideas when running an offense. Matt Rule, he wanted to run the ball a bit more, and I'm not sure at the time if Joe Brady was doing that. He was a proponent to run the ball. This time around, I see, from what I see, is Joe Brady makes it an emphasis to indeed run the ball. And I think that is something that possibly he learned during his time with the Carolina Panthers, and he learned during his time being a quarterback coach for the Buffalo Bills before he took over. Kind of like, a quarterback that's a rookie, and they thrust him out there and he struggles, and they take him off, and they're like, you know what? We're going to put in our veteran quarterback. We want you to see the field. We want you to see it, take a clipboard, see the field, and hopefully it slows the game down for you. And in a lot of instances, it does that for that quarterback. It slows the game down for them, and they are more patient, and they become a better quarterback because of that. And I'm thinking that that's possibly what happened with Joe Brady. He does make it an emphasis to run the ball more, and I think Sean McDermott is a proponent of running the ball. So I do think that they're on the same page or wavelength in terms of the attack on this style of offense. And just because you do run the ball more doesn't mean you have to be predictable doing it, right? And I think that is an issue and a concern for me as well. He does get predictable at times, and it seemed as if as the game got tighter, he got more predictable. You know, like pressure was starting to bust pipes, and that is a concern that I have as well. The predictability is not going to win you games, right? And on one hand, it's like, okay, you know, the Buffalo Bills, when you're predictable against the Buffalo Bills, sometimes they still struggle, right? Everybody knew the New England Patriots was going to run the ball 100 times in that win game, even the Buffalo Bills, and they still couldn't stop the run game, right? But sometimes it's the plays you call behind the run game that opens up your success. And I'm not sure if Joe Brady has those different styles of plays to continue to be successful running the ball when the game is close, when the game is in a balance. So yes, I have those concerns as well with Joe
As
Brady
of right
and his
now,
predictability.
as of right now, though, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I think that he was using someone else's playbook a little bit and didn't have all the wrinkles at his disposal that he might like. So you have
Okay.
to also take that into effect. Why didn't Dorsey's playbook have these wrinkles? You know, I think that, you know, we can question that all day, but he's not here anymore. So now it's Joe Brady to install those wrinkles for the upcoming season and have that full off season now. So that predictability hopefully gets lesser because he's able to install more of the wrinkle, the play off of the play, and building upon schemes, and that'll hopefully alleviate some of that predictability.
Other concerns I have is, can he consistently mesh and blend in the intermediate and vertical passing concepts to blend with his short passing attack? To me, it seems as if that Joe Brady's either going to run the ball or he's going to dump it off with some short pass, right? And I'm not sure if Joe Brady has a vertical bag, a vertical concept bag. I'm not sure if Brady has that bag to open up all three levels of the defense, and that's my concern. Teddy Bridgewater, 2020, probably had his best season with Joe Brady, throwing for over 3,700 yards, 15 touchdowns, and a 69% completion percentage. But Teddy Bridgewater is known as a quarterback that struggles to get the ball downfield vertically. He struggles to throw the ball deep and open up the deep levels and the deep parts of the field. So Joe Brady's offense was perfect for Teddy Bridgewater in terms of masking his deficiencies. Can Joe Brady maximize the throwing talent of Josh Allen? That is my concern, because a lot of people would tell me, hey, it was by design Josh Allen threw 19 passes behind the line of scrimmage. I'm like, come on, bro. But you're throwing that much passes behind the line of scrimmage? I have my concerns. And with a big arm that Josh Allen has, I don't want to see Josh Allen turned into a game manager in the Joe Brady offense.
I look at personnel more for that concern than Joe Brady.
Okay.
In my opinion, I
Good
think
rebuttal.
that, you know, we saw Khil Shakir and Josh Allen find a little bit here and there. Wasn't consistent, but it was there at times. We got people mentioning Knox and Kincaid in the comments as well. I like that. Maybe Kincaid definitely has that down the field presence, I believe. And so is the personnel, because we don't know who we're going to roll into the season with yet, is the personnel going to allow them to take effective shots down the field consistently enough to make it a factor in the game. It speaks more to personnel to me than it does Brady's scheme. I think
Okay.
they still took an ample amount of shots with the people they had. I don't think they connected on enough of them. I think they should have connected on more. And that could be some of Joe Brady, but I think it's more about, are we going to have the guys to separate? And we're going to talk about this
Right
about,
now.
yeah,
We could transition because you're doing an
exactly.
excellent job with the transitions. What type of skill sets are needed to maximize the Joe Brady offense?
The three highlights I have here are playmakers, separators, and a high IQ
Mm,
player,
mm,
because it seemed like the way that they wanted to draw up some of these shots between Davis and Allen were that it was a little bit of these options and read the defense and do this and do that. And we saw them not connecting.
mhm,
So we need to have a high IQ guy that can come in, learn it, and get on the same page with Josh Allen early and
mm,
see the same things that Josh Allen sees early. And that's going to be a lot of the effectiveness in some of these shots, because a lot of those shots that we missed on were between Allen and Davis, I believe.
mm,
And Allen threw a ball to a corner and Davis went in the middle and this and that. So I think that we need the IQ, but we also, it's not a secret that you need a separator at wide receiver. It's not a
correct.
hot take or nothing, but
Right.
this offense and the way it's constructed is going to rely a little bit on some of these guys, and at least to have one guy. And that's where Stefon Diggs was elite, I believe, at getting separation from his
Hmm.
guy and giving you a target to hit more often than not. And so that's the one thing. Can Curtis Samuel do more of that?
Mm,
Is Shakir going to be effective at that? Can Kincaid do that consistently? Is whomever we bring in going to be a guy that can consistently separate at the NFL level? And then
mm.
this again, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, because it's just been beaten into our brains by this regime already, is the playmaker side of things. You got to have the skill enough
Mm,
to get yards once the
mhm,
ball's in your hands and
mhm,
make some plays. And
mhm.
that's really what this offense is predicated on, in my opinion.
And you know what? When I think about the Joe Brady offense, it's like, okay, what type of skill sets are needed? And then we think about some players and we think about some traits, right? Or like, I don't think in the Joe Brady offense, I mean, it's good, it's good to have in any offense, don't get me wrong, but I don't think you have to be this intricate route running, right? I think that you can be a decent route runner and still make impact plays in the Joe Brady offense because of the type of plays he called. He likes to call those dig routes, those shallow crossers. He calls plays that are man and zone beaters.
Mhm.
And now that he's calling these man and zone beater type plays, it's up to the quarterback now to one, make the right read, make the correct read, and get the ball to the correct player in the right read. And after the quarterback does that, it's up to the player with that skill set to make things happen with the ball in his hand. So, in my opinion, to maximize Joe Brady's offense, you have to have players with above average skill sets, whether that's physicality, being physical and being able to win contested catches and being able to kind of bully the younger defenders. You got to have some physicality to your game, or you got to have speed, right? You got to have the speed to make the defenders cognizant of you being on the field before the plays even ran. He's like, oh shit, you know what? This guy is on the field. The defenders, the safeties are taking 2 or 3 steps back because they see player X on the field, because they know he has the speed and has the vertical equipped to get downfield vertically, right? Or quickness. Speed and quickness is two different things. Quickness, short area burst, short area quickness, being able to move laterally, being able to shift gears and change directions. I believe in the short and intermediate passing game, that can be vital in a player's success. So in the Joe Brady offense, I'm looking for players with above average traits, and those above average traits are physicality, speed, and explosiveness.
Yeah, 100%. Goes to making plays and separating require those things. I think that's exactly what I was going for. I didn't break it down as detailed and into those categories as you did. So you've kind of highlighted exactly what I wanted to say. You got to know where you need to be on the field, and that comes with the IQ. And then you got to be able to physically do it, and that comes with those things, speed and quickness, like you mentioned. They're, again, not a hot take. It's something we talk about all the time. It's something that is going to make any offense better when you have those things. But it's definitely the truth here. A lot of talk about speed in the comments, and we definitely appreciate that. Not a lot of speed overall on this roster.
Correct.
In the skill positions. That was one of the things that James Cook was really exciting to see when he came in is, okay, is his speed going to be a factor at the next level? And we know it can be for sure, because we've seen him now be open more often than not. And then a matter of if you can actually make those catches and make those plays.
Exactly. ARich, Hakeem Richards, Lance Nelson, the Founders Pod. 518, 519 people in the chat. We appreciate everybody for rocking with us tonight. This has been an excellent show thus far, to the point where I didn't even know we've been going on over an hour and 13 minutes, Lance. Great stuff, buddy. Before we get out of here, I don't want to go heavy into the talk, because if we go heavy, it could be another hour and 15 minutes. But I want to get it started. Yep. And I want to get it started, put the bug in people's ears, and then we'll start going full force and start attacking as we get closer to the NFL draft. So, Lance, NFL draft, obviously we don't have. I'm a be position specific here, obviously, because of the Diggs talk, because of Brady, because of the skill positions. NFL draft. How much? Let's start with this. How many receivers should the Buffalo Bills draft? They have 10 picks. If you was Brandon Beane, how much receivers you're drafting?
I said 2 or 3 before we traded Diggs. So, I mean, I'm got to go at least 3. I would go drafting. I mean, I joked, and it is a joke, but it's like, just draft wide receivers at every pick, because one of them is going to be good. This draft class is so talented from top to bottom at wide receiver that if you just pick a wide receiver at every pick, you're bound to get 1 or 2 that
hit on a couple.
But I really think that 3 would be the sweet spot for me. I think you really want to get at least 2 guys that you believe could be outside receivers in this league, and then I think you want to get at least 1 guy that you think is that dynamic speed player that isn't named Xavier Worthy.
That isn't named Xavier Worthy. Why do you say that? You're not a fan of Xavier Worthy? Do you think that he is too light in the ass to be successful as a wide receiver in the NFL?
I'm nervous that picking him in the first round is too early. And I don't think he's going to be there if we don't pick him in the first round. So that's kind of my thought process on it. I don't think I wouldn't be mad at getting him.
Right.
I don't think, and maybe his value's there at 28. I'm not going to be claim to be some expert talent evaluator. But for me, it's just the draft picks we have don't necessarily correspond to landing him. I just think that we would have to reach for him to get him, or he may be off the board by the time we draft again. But who knows how the board is going to fall.
Right.
I've got a few names here.
Some of your favorite guys. Like. Yep, let's hear it.
And early on, it's going to be the Brian Thomas Jr. And your guy Troy Franklin. You've been on Troy Franklin.
Love Troy Franklin
since the beginning of this thing, and I don't think that it was a bad thing that he tested the way he did.
Mm-hmm.
And if that drops him down into a place where we get him at a
Mm-hmm.
value, I
Mm-hmm.
think he can be a very, very good player in this league. Troy Franklin. Brian Thomas Jr., I think everyone knows that that's one of the main targets. It's one of the names out there. Malik Neighbors came out and said he thinks he's going to be a Bill.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just makes too much sense not to mention here. If we don't get that big X receiver early, Brendan Rice later on may be
USC.
a name that we can really utilize. He's got more of the lineage factor to him than necessarily the all out production, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got some holes in his game, but I think those things are coachable. I think he's still got, with having the pedigree and having the work ethic instilled in him that I'm assuming his father put into him, I think that can translate to the NFL with coaching.
Mm-hmm. I like Brandon Rice, and he does give me some Gabe Davis vibes a little bit. I think that Brandon Rice can be a better, more polished route runner. I think he can do more things within the route tree that probably Gabe Davis does. But I do like his game. I do like his size. And I think he's going to be a quality possession receiver. As far as Xavier Worthy, I wouldn't be mad getting him because he adds an element that he adds an element and a dimension that the Buffalo Bills do not have. And he adds an element to the offense that the defense have to be cognizant of. So I wouldn't be opposed of an Xavier Worthy. Do I want him? Not necessarily, but I would take him. So, for example, the Miami Dolphins don't take him. I would hate for Xavier Worthy to go to Miami Dolphins, right? And as much as it pains me to say it, that's where I envision him going. But that's another story for another day. I envision the Buffalo Bills taking 3 receivers as well. I like, as far as early rounds, I really like Brian Thomas Jr. I think that even though I haven't talked about him as much as others, I like his size, I like his speed, I like his ability. I think he can do some good things within the Buffalo Bills offense. Mitchell from Texas, Izzy. At first, I wasn't high on Mitchell, and I'm still growing to like him, but the more I watch him, he can do so much things in all 3 phases: short, intermediate, and vertical, which I think can be a dimension the Buffalo Bills can utilize. So I really like AD Mitchell from Texas. These are early rounds. My guy Troy Franklin. Another guy that is one of my favorites is Leggett. Xavier Leggett. I believe is the first name Xavier. Xavier Leggett. Is it Leggett? Yep. Xavier Leggett. He's raw in terms of productivity, in terms of only one big productive year in South Carolina. But in Joe Brady's offense, when you have to catch digs and screens and shallow crosses, he can be an impact player while he develops his route tree, because he has things that you can't teach. He has the size, he has the speed, he has the physicality to play that bully ball. He's good in contested catches. He has all the things that are athletically gifted traits, and all the things that he has to work on are coachable traits. So I really, really like Xavier Leggett, and I wouldn't be opposed. I know a lot of people have him as a 2nd round pick. I would pick him 1st round, 20th selection. That's how high I am on Leggett. We'll see what happens there. Mid-round guys, I really like you said, Javon Baker. Not Javon Baker, even though I like him too. Javon Baker out of UCF, University of Central Florida. Brandon Rice out of USC, and I like the kid from Western Kentucky, Malachi Corley. I believe, even though I have concerns with his drop rate, I believe he's a yak specialist. And he reminds me a lot of, guys like Deebo Samuel. And I think a guy like Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky can be utilized and implemented right away within the Buffalo Bills offense. And he would add a dimension that the Buffalo Bills currently don't have. And some late round guys I like Casey Washington from Illinois. I like Malik Washington from Virginia, the slot receiver. I really like him. I think that You know, I think he's going to get picked late, like the 5th round pick. He can be the Khil Shakir of a couple of years ago. He can be a guy that can be picked late in the rounds. And once we see him play, it's like, okay, how in the world was Malik Washington selected in the 5th round? Right? I believe he can be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And another late round sleeper I like is Christian McCaffrey's brother, Luke McCaffrey. I really, really like Luke McCaffrey in the late rounds. If he's available in the 6th round, 7th round, I would definitely kick the tires and get a Luke McCaffrey. I want 3 receivers in the draft as well, and I just gave you a couple of different receivers in each level of the draft.
Yeah, and some guys that don't necessarily fit the whole, big outside receiver necessarily. And three guys I wanted to mention besides the ones I did was Roman Wilson seemed to kind of get forgotten about, and maybe he's not fitting where we're picking, and so people
possibly.
are kind of, but and then the guys from Washington. Look, Rome Odunze obviously is the perfect fit for the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, and we're just not able to get him, or we're going to have to give up some stuff that maybe most people, including this regime, probably aren't willing to go get him. But I think he really would be the perfect fit to come in here and play. But I also really like Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan. Both guys I think can have excellent success here in Buffalo. So some of those guys are probably
McMillan. That's the one that got hurt.
2nd to 3rd round picks. Potentially, and just not having that 3rd round pick just hurts so bad. So,
yep, yeah. Hey, Steven Sutton. Shout out Steven Sutton. Shout out everybody in the chat room. I really like Kool-Aid McKinney. Don't be fooled. We're talking about offense. We're kind of talking on one side of the ball, but right quick, I really like Kool-Aid McKinney from Alabama. I think that it's possible he can be available, and again, it all depends on how the draft falls, right? Because we can't be opposed. Rasul Douglas is going into his last year. We thought that he was going to get a contract extension, and they just did a restructure instead of an extension. So we'll see what happens there. I believe he's 30. He's not a spring chicken. He's not a young pup. So it could be contingency plans. And the way, depending on how that the board falls, Kool-Aid McKinney can definitely be part of that plan. I like him, but we're just talking offensive side of the ball right now. But shout out Steve Sutton for the comment.
Yeah, Kool-Aid McKinstry is definitely
McKinstry, yep,
a solid option. I really definitely wouldn't like to take a cornerback in the 1st round, but I also want to take the best fit at whatever pick we're picking at, which may or may not be 28 or 27. 28 at this point. We don't know.
We don't know.
But let's see.
So would you rather?
He did not test well as a Raz guy. He did not have. Not test well, but maybe that causes him to fall into a position where we get him. We've seen guys that end up not testing well that are very, very competent football players.
So let's play a quick game. Lance, let's play a quick game. Everybody in the comment section, let's play a quick game. Let's play a game of would you rather. So Lance, would you rather the Buffalo Bills move up in the 1st round of the draft to secure their receiver? Or would you rather the Buffalo Bills move up in day 2 of the NFL draft? And why?
That's tough because it's all right, how far can we move up in the 1st round? That's the really limiting factor. So I think because of that, I would say move up in the day 2, because I just think that it's too expensive to move up in day 1. Well, let me say, and I don't mean I'm going to tell you why both maybe, but if we're going up to get Rome Odunze, then 100%, that's what I'd rather do. Really? That's my number one. That's my number one
guy
plan, is go up and get Rome Odunze. If we can do that, boom. That's my preference. Outside of that, I just see it being easier to move up in day 2. We just have all the options to do that now. Moving up within the 2nd and 3rd rounds is much more plausible for this team. And there's a bunch of guys there that have the value for those slots to be chosen, especially at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I like it. I I would probably go the latter. I probably would want to move up day 2 of the NFL draft just because the compensation wouldn't be as much and we would be able to still have many of our draft picks for now in the future. So I would say if I would rather move up in day 2. But then again, when you think about it, right, we don't know what the draft is going to consist of next season. Usually when you have a good draft like we have one this year, the next one after is not as good. Not saying you can't find talent, not saying you can't find players, but the draft after may not be as good as this one. So while we know for sure that this draft is an exceptional one, get the guys that you think can make an impact and can be core players and can be perennial Pro Bowlers for your organization.
Yeah. And there's a lot of comments about Odunze costing too much and needing to move up too high. I totally understand that. So I think
I
that
agree.
I totally understand. And that's kind of why I preface it. Like my preference is do what you got to do to get them, if they can. Because of that, what are we gonna get in next year or whatever, or what else can we get? But there's so many other conversations being had behind the scenes right now with being in that regime, talking about who may come in from a free agent perspective, what trade angles they might have to trade for an Ayuk or a T. Higgins. So all those conversations that we're not privy to are going to affect what they're willing to do to go up and get a rookie, which makes sense. So I guess the dream scenario is, and it all depends on hitting on the right guy, but if we get the ability to trade back from our first round selection, still get maybe an Xavier Legette, and then you're able to get an additional third round pick where you're able to add some top tier talent at a position like safety. That's obviously the dream scenario for me, is to be able to get maybe between, or maybe just solely on day 2, if you end up maybe with a receiver, maybe 2 receivers, and then a safety that comes in and can start potentially, like a Bullard or somebody like that. I think that would make a lot of sense for what this team needs to do to move forward.
Give me 2 names that you would like to see, 2 wide receivers, a combination of 2 receivers, realistic. Don't give me Harrison and Neighbors. Obviously, it's not happening, right? A combination of 2 realistic receivers you would like to see the Buffalo Bills have on their team. Give me the combination.
I like Brian Thomas Jr. and a Jalen Polk combination.
Oh, Brian Thomas Jr. and Jalen Polk. I like it. I like it a lot. That's a good combination. I like Xavier Leggett, and I like Malachi Corley. I like those 2. Corley, Corley's yo man. I don't see a lot of people talking about him. I really like Corley, man. I really like Malachi Corley.
There's another small school guy out there. His name but also Jacob Coling from Arizona is another guy to watch out for. Right. I think he might be pretty. Who's the guy from like Hofstra, or it starts with an H? What the hell is the hype? Or
oh man,
let me get it. Hang on 1 second.
So we got Lad McConkey, we got Ricky Parcel, we got Jacob Cowing, we have Javon Baker, Brandon Rice, Luke McCaffrey, Brian Thomas Jr., Troy Franklin, Xavier Leggett, Malik Washington, Casey Washington. Who am I missing here? Who are we missing?
I'm almost there. Hang on 1 second. Where's this?
Xavier Worthy. Brendan Rice. They have a lot. They have a lot of talent. McMillan from Washington that got injured. I really liked McMillan before he went down with the injury as well. They have a lot of talent at the wide receiver position in this class, in this pool. Let's see if we could find the guy that she was referring to.
It's not coming up here, and I don't understand.
It's not coming up. It's okay. That's okay. Maybe he'll he'll be part of the discussion for the next show when we go deeper in the wide receiver evaluation on the NFL draft. But hey, man, this has been a great show. It's 11:06. We've been going on for about an hour 36 minutes right now. So excellent show. We appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us. 434 people. Everybody's been having great conversations within the group chat. This has been a great show, entertaining show. Once again, ARich, Akeem Richens, Founders Pod, along with my guy, my brother Lance Nelson, president of Built in Buffalo. We hope DM3 gets better soon. Hopefully next week we can have him on, but if not, if Lance is available, we're definitely going to run this show again. Lance, great show, my man. Great show. Anything else you want to say?
Jalen Coker, that's his name. From
Jalen
Holy
Coker.
Cross.
Jalen Coker. Okay.
My
Yes.
bad.
Yes. No, I've seen a couple of his highlights. He is a sleeper. He is definitely one of the sleepers and definitely can be a late round addition that can possibly latch on and do some things with the team. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I appreciate you. And anytime you need me, I'm here. You know that. So thanks for having me on. I had a blast. I think we had a great conversation too today. So appreciate all that. And thanks everyone for the comments. Keep checking out our Built in Buffalo content all across our social media platforms. We're gonna have a lot of stuff coming up. So pretty excited.
Yeah, man. Exciting time to be a Buffalo Bills fan. Exciting time. Hey, stay in tune, be in touch with Built in Buffalo. We have a lot of things coming. We have a lot of big news coming sooner rather than later. And the draft is coming up. We're going to be in tune to the draft, day 1, day 2 of the draft. You're going to see myself. You're going to see Lance. You're going to see a lot of the Built in Buffalo faces. So please keep tuning in. We appreciate everybody's support, man. And another excellent show from ARich, from Lance Nelson. This is the Founders Pod, only on the Built in Buffalo Network. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.